What is good, you guys? Welcome back to the report. Welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a lot of your questions, answering them. You guys sent a lot of good questions for the Q&A, and I'm going to be answering all of them. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below before we get into this. We had a great win last night against the Portland Trailblazers, shorthanded. The refs were on something, man. Kyle Lowry should not have been ejected. But that's besides the point. We won, so that's all I care about. We got to play the Suns next, so that's going to be a tough game. But without further ado, let's get into your questions. So the first questions that we got was from level 11 bigger badder bosses. Nice name. Happy to see you making it to the new year, my guy. How do you think we will incorporate VO when he comes back, since it's looking closer and closer? And do you think KZ can be in the mold of PJ and Draymond in a few more seasons? Happy New Year to you too. Happy New Year to everyone actually on this channel. I didn't really wish you guys formally, but thank you guys for making this 2021 great for this channel, and let's make 2022 even better, on the road to 2,000 subscribers, and I hope to achieve that sometime in 2022 as soon as possible. And if you guys are in school, if you guys are, working on your whatever you guys are working on, make sure you guys finish out strong and have a great 2022. So let's get right into it, man. So the first part of the question was, how do you think we will incorporate VO when he eventually gets back, because he's looking closer and closer? Now, a lot of people, this has been a debate, man. Some people want Oladipo to start when he comes back. I'm in the camp that I think we should bring him off the bench. I think that off the bench, Tyler and Vic would be crazy. And I think that maybe Oladipo can close if he's, fully, not fully healthy, because I don't think he's going to be 100%, but even if he's like 80%, we could see him closing games. But as far as starting games, I think you should start on the bench. I think that I don't really see the Heat taking out a shooter like Duncan Robinson or Max Strus, because Max Strus started last game, or Duncan Robinson has been starting for majority of the games that he's been playing. So I don't think that the Heat are going to take out a shooter like that, because I think they just complement the team's offense a lot. So I don't think they're going to get another ball dominant player like Victor Oladipo to start. And I think off the bench, VO and Tyler is like a lot better than a lot of starting backcourts in the NBA. So that's a huge advantage. You can kill people off the bench with that backcourt. And I expect him to just, slot right in. I think defensively, he's going to be there. Even if he's not, 100% defensively, he's never going to lose it, because he's always been a great defender. Coming out of Indiana, he was known as one of the best defenders in his draft. So he's always going to have his defense. The only thing that might drop is probably the athleticism / explosiveness as far as going to the rim, because of that knee injury in the surgery. So quad surgery. So I don't know how explosive he's going to be finishing at the rim, because that was a huge part of his game. He was a very explosive athlete, and he really relied on his finishing. But I think that's where he's going to have to develop his three-point shot and his pull-up mid-range. He's shown flashes with the pull-up mid-range in the past, but the three-point shot has been probably his biggest weakness on the offensive end. So if he cannot really explode to the basket like he was before, I expect him to more rely on that three-point shot. But I think he'll be a seamless fit next to Tyler defensively. I think that'll be great. And even starting or closing the game, that defensive lineup of him, Lowry, Butler, Tucker, and Adebayo, like, that's a crazy defensive lineup. So I think that, I think he'll fit in well, man. I think he'll fit in well, and hopefully he comes back as soon as possible, because we really, really need a boost back. Whether it's Jimmy, Bam, VO, like, we need one of these guys back as soon as possible. And then the second part of your question, do you think KZ can be in the mode of PJ and Draymond in a few more seasons? He's a long way away from doing that. Draymond Green, we just saw he carved us up in that Warriors game. He was dishing dimes to everyone. Draymond Green is one of the most underrated players in the NBA, man. I truly don't think he gets the credit he deserves. And a lot of people think like Stephen Curry might be the MVP or whatever. I think Draymond Green might be just as valuable to that team, because everything that he does, it just goes unnoticed. It goes under the radar. His playmaking is off the charts. His, defensively, he's off the charts. He can guard 1 through 5, very much like how Bam can. And then, offensively, he's just another, really, really tough player, rebounder, can pass the ball. Obviously, shooting wise has dipped over the past years from his prime when he was like 2016 Draymond or 2015 Draymond, but he's still a very, very solid player. And I think that KZ Okpala, it's going to take a lot for him to reach that level. So I cannot really see Draymond Green. PJ Tucker, maybe I can see where you're trying to get there. KZ Okpala has shown flashes of hitting that corner three whenever he's played. Against the Bucks, he hit a couple, and he hit a couple after that as well. So I think that if he can just become a 3-and-D player, because that's all I want KZ to be. I want KZ's role to be as simplified as possible, because I don't think on this team he's gonna have the opportunity to. I don't think he's gonna have the opportunity to put the ball on the floor and make plays and all that, because I don't think we have the room, and I don't think we have. I just think there's a lot of people ahead of him who do the same role. So I think that what he's gonna be doing on this team, and what he has to be doing on this team, is just being a 3-and-D player, a catch and shoot player. And that's where you can see the Tucker resemblances. But if you guys watched PJ Tucker last night, he was immense. Not only with his catch and shoot threes, but drawing fouls. I know he free throws he didn't hit a lot. He didn't hit all of them. He hit like 60%, something like that. But as far as drawing fouls, that floater game, he's picked up a really, really great floater game since he's come here, with the 2-man game out of the pick and roll. When 2 defenders blitz at a shooter, he's always wide open underneath the basket, and that floater game over a big is really, really what makes him a lot really valuable to our team as well. Defensively, he's off the charts, man. I don't know. I tweeted in the first quarter, just watch his communication on the defensive end, and watch his intensity on the defensive end. It's crazy. Like, you can just hear him barking out orders every 2 seconds whenever a player is near him. Like, he was yelling at Omer to get on the block, and he was yelling at Kyle to help. Like, he's just a general on the defensive end. It's going to take a lot for KZ to reach that level, but I think if he can just simplify his role as a 3-and-D player, he will be fine. The next question, I'm actually going to combine these next 2 questions because they're very similar. One is from Mohan, and the other one is from Darnell Octavius. So they're both asking about what we do at the trade deadline. Mohan is asking, what do we even need to do at the trade deadline? Our roster is pretty clean. And Darnell said, who should be considered as potential trade fodder considering the rising stock price on bench players during this run? Now, Darnell is more asking about who do you think we should trade, and Mohan is asking who do you think we should get. So that's why I'm combining these 2 questions, because I think we can just knock off 2 birds with 1 stone here. Now, this is a question I've been thinking about, man, because I don't really think there's a lot of trade assets on our team. Now, Duncan Robinson is probably the most, probably the only, not the only trade asset, but probably the guy who's most likely used in a big trade. Apart from that, I don't really see anyone else. Not PJ Tucker, Markieff Morris and KZ Okpala, maybe. Maybe KZ and maybe Keith. I don't know what's going on with Markieff's injury. He's been tweeting out sunglasses and all that stuff. I just come back, bro. Like, I don't know what's going on. You've missed 30 games. That neck injury must be serious or something, because there's no way I would have expected him to miss this much time. But maybe Keith and maybe KZ. But Duncan is probably the only other guy that can see getting traded, just because his contract is big, and I think it could be used to match other contracts in the NBA in a big deal. I know Jeremy Grant is a name that has been on the market. A lot of contending teams want Jeremy Grant. I would personally love Jeremy Grant, but I let's be realistic here. I don't think we have the assets to give up to the Pistons. The Pistons want a young player, and they want promising picks that can be used in the lottery. Right now, I don't think we're going to be giving up a young player. Yurtseven is first of all, I don't think we're trading Yurtseven. He's been playing crazy. And second of all, Yurtseven, as good as he's been playing, he doesn't have the potential as some of these other young players do. He's already 23. And his potential is not through the roof as what the Pistons fans would want. So I don't think Yurtseven is a guy that they would want, and I don't think we would trade Yurtseven. And then apart from that, the only other young asset we have is Tyler. Gabe Vincent and Max Strus are already past 25, if I'm not mistaken. Apart from that, yeah, Caleb Martin is on a 2-way. I expect his contract to be converted soon. I don't think we're trading him. So I don't see us getting Jeremy Grant. So I think you guys can just forget about that. It's not going to happen. And, we're probably not going to make a huge splash at the trade deadline this season because, like I said, we don't really have that many assets to give up. Like Duncan Robinson might be the only one, and I'm not even sure he's getting traded. Like, the only reason I'm naming these guys is if there was a trade, who are the 3 names that I would think are getting traded? It'll probably be Duncan, KZ, and Markieff. But that's not to say that I think these guys are getting traded, because I don't. I just said if there is a trade, these guys will probably be the ones who are getting traded. And yeah, like apart from that, just watch for the buyout market. The buyout market is probably not the only avenue, but probably the most likely avenue for us to stack up on some more talent during the trade deadline time, because I think that the buyout market is probably, where it's at for us right now, because like I said, lack of assets and all that. The only thing is we'll have to make a decision with the Caleb Martin contract, because Kyle Guy has been playing phenomenally off the bench. I expect Caleb Martin's contract to be converted and then have Guy and Marcus Garrett as the two-way players. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, but buyout market might be our most realistic avenue. With a name trying to get bought out, maybe a Dragic. For everyone talking about Dragic, for us to get back Goran on this team, Dragic has to be traded to another team and he has to be waived. So he cannot be bought out by the Toronto Raptors. He has to be waived by a different team after he's traded for him to go back to Miami. So that's how it's a huge process because of the Gary Payton rule. You cannot go back to a team after they've traded you unless the team that you have traded him to trades him to a different team and that different team waives him where he's a free agent. Then he can sign with the Heat, if that makes any sense. So he might be a name too, but we'll see how that goes. But hopefully that answered your guys' questions. Our last question comes from Ken. What under the radar teams, not Brooklyn, for example, are you most concerned about come playoff time? I think a matchup with the Cavs' length in the series would be really tough. I agree with you. The Cavs would be tough, man. The Cavs have beaten us twice. Their length is scary. They have a lot of length on their team. Like I said, 2-0 against us. We didn't have Jimmy or Bam for both games, if I'm not mistaken, but still, like that's still a tough team right there. And they're playing with house money. Like they're not supposed to be where they are in the standings right now, so they don't really care. They're just playing fun. They're just having fun out there on the court, and they're just playing tough and playing hard. And I think that's a team I do not want to see. Apart from that, when I'm looking at the standings right now, under the radar teams, I'm not too worried about the Sixers. I think the Sixers, and I don't really think the Sixers are an under the radar team. I just think that, under the radar teams are teams that you like don't really expect to see in the playoffs, like the Cavs. The Celtics are all the way down there. They're at the 10 seed. I'm gonna say the Wizards, man. I'm gonna say the Wizards. I think the Wizards could give us something like two games of run, because I just think that the Wizards fully healthy, they slipped to the 9 seed, but I think the Wizards fully healthy, they're very deep. They're a very, very deep team. That's why I was so high on them. Like, I predicted the Wizards to be in the playoffs at the start of the season, and I hope that prediction comes true, but I don't really want to see them in a series because they're very, very deep, and I really think that, the depth could hurt us because, their depth chart is ridiculous, and they haven't even had Rui Hachimura back, Thomas Bryant back, and Spencer Dinwiddie has been injured too. So they've had a lot of injuries. Kyle Kuzma has been playing phenomenally well. Deni Avdija has been really good defensively. Kispert has come into his own. Caldwell Pope is a shooter. They like Dinwiddie, Beal, Hachimura, Bertans. They have their 3 centers in Gafford, Bryant, and Montrezl Harrell. I think they're a tough team. And I think that I do not want to see them. So I'm probably gonna say the Wizards to answer your question. Apart from that, not really much. Not really too scared about any of these other teams. Maybe the Hornets because they're young and they have LaMelo. But apart from that, Raptors maybe because they're well coached. I'm gonna say the Wizards though. And just to like add on with the contenders, or like the top seeds in the East, I hope that we get the Bulls in the series because I'm not too worried about the Bulls. I know this might sound delusional, but trust me, like I think that we can beat the Bulls in the series much easier than we can beat the Nets or the Bucks or someone like that. Because no disrespect to the Bulls have been playing really, really well this season, but I think that the Bulls are. I think we could be like the Bulls' kryptonite this season. I don't think the Bulls' style of play works well against us. The Bulls are terrible against the zone. You can ask any Bulls fan this. The Bulls are absolutely horrendous against the zone, and I think that the Heat have the best zone in the NBA. That's obvious. So if Spoelstra runs that zone, that could confuse the Bulls, like how it did the Celtics in that 2020 series, where we ran a lot of zone, and that really confused them and messed with them. So I think the Bulls in the series, I would take that any day of the week over a team like the Nets or the Bucks, which is why I hope they stay at 1 and I hope we stay at 4. Because if the Bulls and the Heat play in the second round, assuming we beat our first round matchup, which might be the Sixers or Cavs, depending on who it is, but that we're a long way away from that. I'm just giving you guys scenarios right now. The Nets and the Bucks can probably beat up on each other, and we can play one of them if we beat the Bulls. That's probably the best scenario for me. That's probably the scenario that I like the most, is playing the Bulls in the second round rather than playing the Nets or the Bucks in the second round, because I do not want to play any of those teams in the second round. If I had to pick between one of those teams to play, I would probably choose the Nets. I know they just got Kyrie back, but even with home court advantage, Kyrie cannot play 4 games. He can only play 3. And then the Bucks are the defending champions, and they have a lot of pieces on their team that are good defensively. I think the Nets can be got at, man. I think the Nets can be exposed. The Nets are a team of individuals. I don't see them as a team, as a collective unit yet. I think they're a team much like how maybe the Heat were in 2011, where we just assembled names and we didn't really have, a cohesive roster around them. But maybe that's a bad comparison. You guys let me know. I think that the Nets can be got at a lot easier than the Bucks, and I think that I would rather play the Nets in a series than the Bucks. But we're a long ways away from that. To answer your question, my guy, an under-the-radar team, apart from the Cavs, that I would not want to play in a series is the Washington Wizards. And hopefully that answered your question. Now, hopefully I answered all your questions, man. This was a great video to make. Please ask me any other questions you guys have in the comment section. I do want to make this question of the day a thing. So if you guys have any questions, get at me in the comment section below. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys later. Leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below.